Ladies and gentlemen, please, can you put your hands together and give a big, warm welcome to the founder and CEO of Kore.ai, Mr. Raj Koneru.
Welcome, everyone. Really appreciate you taking the flights, trains, wherever you came from. It's very exciting this year to see a larger crowd, larger set of customers, partners, interest in AI in general. And as things change rapidly in the space, how we are helping enterprises adapt to that change. So getting to it, it's all about Gen AI, right? At this point, the hype continues. We've experienced it. I'm sure all of us have experienced it in some small way. Personally, a little bit in the business. And what I think people are realizing is this is transformation. This is new. This is magic. It's great technology, and such technologies we have seen come once in 10 years. 10 years ago, or maybe 14 years ago, it was mobile. A decade before that was internet. Before that was the PC and Windows, and so on and so forth. So clearly, this is a shift that's happening. And it's going to affect consumer lives. It's going to affect how businesses function and take advantage of this. And there are so many use cases that people are thinking about. One customer of ours, a large bank, ran a survey within the company, and 3,000 ideas came out. The biggest problem with these ideas is nobody knows how to get them done, and nobody is clear about what the value is, essentially. How can they quantify that value? But as you can see, a quarter of C-suite executives are already using some of these tools for work. I use it to draft an email, for example. A third of the respondents say that they're already using Gen AI regularly in some fashion. About 30% say that the boards of their companies are insisting that they do something about this. And 40%, are planning to actively increase their investment in AI. So guess the biggest issue for us practitioners usually, that is budget available. You just have to find the value. How do we generate value out of this and prove it out with POCs and demos and the technology that's available today to safely and responsibly put out these applications. So as you go forward in time, last year when ChatGPT came out, we saw, I showed you this slide about how it was behaving in unpredictable ways. So let's go through it again. It's actually a fun one. So it was asked to summarize Romeo and Juliet, first in 1,200 words, and then in 20 words. It said, two young lovers from feuding families were forced to make tragic choices. Then in 10 words, it said, star-crossed lovers take tragic actions that end in death. Then in 5 words, love, hate, and death. And then it knows something, it thought it knew something that we don't. In 2 words, love kills. What this shows is it is not reliable. The best models that are out there are not reliable for business. The output they put out are not controllable. It's magical technology, the ability for a model to understand your intent, be able to take the data that you provide and provide a cohesive response does exist. But what it's essentially doing is putting words together in the most efficient manner that it can. It's trained to do. There's no logic behind it. There's no reasoning behind it. And that is fundamentally the most important thing that businesses need to worry about, essentially. Another example similar to this is how many countries start with the letter V? So ChatGPT said there are 5. It listed them. It repeated Vanuatu twice in that. Then you said, are you sure? It said, oh, I'm sorry. Let me correct that, there are 4. Then you challenge it again and say, can you check again? Again apologizes. It's very nice. No, there are 5. So when you think about that, it has the data, but it didn't have the reasoning to put logic to it and come out with the right number. And when you challenge it, it just gets it wrong over and over again, essentially. So if you do this, if you're a bank and a customer says, how much did I spend last month? You say, first instance, you say, I spent 10,000. Next instance, you say, oh, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you spent 15,000. Do you think the consumer is going to be with the bank anymore, essentially? So you can't let it do what it does. You've got to make it do what you want it to do. And that's the fundamental difference that I think businesses are starting to grasp now. And as time goes on, the tools and technologies and the controls are coming into play, to be able to use it for what it does best, but have it do what you want it to do, essentially. So there are a lot of predictions. Anytime new technology comes out, the analysts, the consulting firms put out like massive predictions, There's 4.4 trillion across 63 use cases is what McKinsey said is the value of this. Now, who knows if that's true, right? Everybody is trying to search for one thing. What's the business value of this? So clearly, they've made some predictions, and it may come true or not. Nobody is going to question them at this point. But the use cases are interesting, right? The simplest one that a lot of us in IT deal with is software development. Clearly, there's value there. There's a lot of manual work, both in development and DevOps, and a lot of that can be automated. And the one thing which was what we have focused on for the most part over the last 10 years is customer operations, customer care, customer service, and that sort of thing. And there is a lot of value in automating that. Now, when you think about AI for the last 10 years, there were only 2 main areas of AI that people actually saw value in. One was conversational AI, and we are actually exactly 10 years old this month doing that. And then there was the whole, ML prediction models that would be used for doing analytics and get insights out of large amounts of data. So how does Gen AI help conversational AI, which is the basis of automating customer service? And when the first LLMs came out, I talked to Prasanna, our CTO, and said, what the hell is this? Basically, how is it going to disrupt what we're doing? And we went into the back room, did a lot of POCs, worked through a lot of models, and realized that it is actually beneficial for conversational AI. It improves NLP, it improves contextual understanding, it improves contextual response generation. You could do rephrasing of both the query and the response in many different ways using context, essentially. So truly, customer operations is a major use case for Gen AI. And then there are a plethora of others that people are thinking about and coming out with different things. But how much has been done till now? Very little. Only 5% of businesses last year said that they've used Gen AI in their operations, whichever type of operations, sales, marketing, customer service, whatever it is. But here's the big thing. Gartner thinks 75% of them are going to do it this year. And we're already, 1/4 of the year in. So maybe I should ask you guys, just with a show of hands, how many of you have used Gen AI and delivered business value in your businesses? Okay. That sounds more like 20%, basically. So that means the remaining 9 months of this year, Another 55% are going to see business value, if Gartner is right, basically. So that's the issue, right? I mean, there's a lot of hype, a lot of projections. People are trying to grapple with, how do I use this to generate not just some business value, not saving 1 minute of an employee's time in a day. It's significant business value, and that's when it's transformational. Then it is like the internet, then it's like mobile, then it's like the things that we have experienced in our daily lives and businesses have used to create optimized businesses. And that is the question that we're posing to our customers, but we're going to now get into the world of helping you generate that value. And that's the thing we've been working on for the last year or so. But let's first talk about what are the problems, right? The most significant problem is the controllability of that output from GenAI models. Whether you fine-tune a model, whether you are using a foundational model, commercial, or open source model, this is the single largest problem. Then there is the accuracy and reliability. IP protection, clearly in the consumer world, already lawsuits are starting to happen. When the foundational models use public content, sometimes copyrighted content, to train their models, the source of that data, the people who created that content are suing. There was just an article about, songwriters and, song artists, are up in arms about these foundational models using their voices and using their lyrics to create new songs in general. We saw the article recently about Google complaining about OpenAI using YouTube videos. I wonder if Google uses them to train their own models. OpenAI can't, but Google will probably do that anyway. So latency. In customer operations, it's real time. In a voice call, which you're trying to use conversational AI to automate, it's real time. The maximum allowable latency from the time the customer says something to the response back to the customer is maybe 3 seconds or 4 seconds. You can put some fillers in there, like a typing keyboard or whatever, basically, but there's a limit. For many responses with GPT-4 even, basically it takes 7 or 8 seconds. So how am I going to use that in a high volume contact center? That's an issue that one needs to deal with. And then that begs the question, do I need that large model, to do, response generation in a particular situation? Or can I use a small language model, basically, which I can fine tune more easily? So these are things, again, that come into play. Governance is a big issue. Most regulated industries, for them, they're learning to figure out how to govern these models as they come out. Cost is massive, when it comes to commercial models. Obviously, there's the cost of the NVIDIA GPUs and chips and infrastructure, but there's also the cost of the model companies themselves. And then there is privacy concerns. What PI data is being used to train these models, whether it's the foundational models or even when you fine-tune a model. And then there is the app building aspect of all this. So there's the model building aspect of all this. And the element of this is, in the last year, and more so in the last 6 months, almost every customer tells me, hey, we're building our own enterprise LLM. And I don't know why, and I don't think they know, most of them know what they think they'll get out of it, but it is a project that's already started in some innovation group or some AI group somewhere, basically. Well, the tools for you to actually do proper fine-tuning don't exist, essentially. You don't have an RLHF studio that you could use immediately to be able to fine-tune a model. You don't have the ability to quickly deploy that as an API and put it into a POC and try it out, essentially. And then if you want to build a GenAI app by chaining a series of prompts, each prompt using a different LLM, make some backend API calls to get some data from your enterprise systems and use that to produce some output, basically you have to write a ton of code. So now Python developers are in vogue, if you will. So this is still very, very, very early, essentially. It needs maturity, it needs enterprise-grade security and protections for enterprises to be able to do this effectively. So these three elements, latency, accuracy, and cost, is like, this elastic band. You pull on one, it pushes the others, basically. And optimizing is that Goldilocks zone that people have to grapple with, essentially. And there's no quick answer for this. There's no best practices for this. It's very use case dependent in general. And the standalone public LLMs, commercial or open source, do some things really, really well. NLU, you can prompt the model to do something for you. But a lot of the other things that you may need as an enterprise, linking the models together, fine-tuning a model, line of business, business systems integrations, enterprise data controls that you may want to put in place, like PII and other things, basically. Compliance, versioning, optimizing the prompting so that you're not paying crazy amounts of money to these foundational models. All these are issues that you don't have an answer to, which we believe you need an enterprise platform of some type that will enable you to manage those other things that just the model themselves don't, essentially. So there's a lot of chaos. When you go on LinkedIn and every post is Gen AI, and everybody professes to be an expert in Gen AI already, basically, that's chaos for you, essentially. So just go look at your LinkedIn, activity feed. Basically, you'll see that. Everybody is now suddenly an expert in Gen AI. But nobody has actually done it in most cases, basically. So that means there's a lot of chaos. It's very difficult to find a solution that gives you clarity. We have redone our entire product stack over the last 12 months. Out of the 1,000 people we have in the company, 600 are in R&D, so we can afford to put a lot of power behind that. And we've changed up a lot of things and added new things to help this particular problem of enterprises being able to use Gen AI or conversational AI for the plethora of use cases that exist. So at the very bottom is the cloud infrastructure. We can run on-prem, private cloud, public cloud. Then we use the commercial models and the community models as needed as the foundation. Then there's a platform services layer where we do the omni-channel deployment of these solutions, manage the scalability, security, compliance kind of things. And a data services layer where we use different vector databases where the data that comes from your input are stored. There are over 100 data connectors to backend systems and knowledge connectors as well to your knowledge systems. And then this is a new one where we created this layer of Gen AI ops, basically where we have fine-tuned models pre-built, but you can also fine-tune your own model. You can manage how those models are deployed, across the infrastructure that you choose, across different servers and different regions. There are governance processes built in, basically, and insights on how the models are being used in general. And then when we went through this process, we realized that there's no one answer to everything that you need to do, both at design time and runtime. You could use a combination of different models, basically, to achieve what you want, and therefore you need an orchestration layer, which is when we realized that we can build a lot of small language models by fine-tuning them with synthetic data, with very high accuracy, very low latency, with zero cost, basically, so that you, as an enterprise, don't have to use a commercial model for 90% of your needs, essentially. So these are LLM models that we have created that we are releasing today with X11 as part of our overall Kore.ai platform. And then there is the XO platform, which is what all of you or many of you experienced is the automation element, which is to create a bot and then deploy it in multiple channels. Some of you may not know that there's a full contact center system built into it, which is an AI-first contact center. We also now released a new capability called Agent AI, which does real-time coaching and playbook management and script adherence, in addition to task automation, which used to exist. And we are releasing a new quality management capability using LLMs to reduce the need for you to have hordes of people to listen to calls or chats and see how and score your agents. We also released Search AI, which is another platform, which is actually the fastest growing product within our portfolio, which used to be traditional indexing-based search, which we've now completely changed to be based on RAG, where we use different LLMs for extraction and answer generation. And this is being used at very large scale by some of the largest customers that we have. And today we're announcing the new launch of a new platform called Gale, which is a Gen AI platform, which essentially does two things. One, bring your data in. There's a data studio to label your data and get your data ready for fine-tuning. Then there is a fine-tuning module and an evaluation studio where you can evaluate your model, use RLHF as needed to improve your model, and then the ability to deploy that model and get insights and analytics out of it. That's one. The other one is a no-code Gen AI app builder, where you can chain a series of prompts. Each prompt may use a different LLM, maybe even your own fine-tuned LLM. You can make backend API calls and generate an entire app, which can be deployed as an API as well. So this is the first of its kind, enterprise-grade, highly scalable Gen AI platform on which you can build your Gen AI apps. And there are guardrails built into the XO platform when we use LLMs. There's an entire guardrail framework where there are pre-built guardrails to check the output for toxicity, bias, profane language, and things like that. And you can build your own guardrails and deploy them, both for conversational use cases on the XO platform, as well as for Gen AI use cases on the Gale platform. So, and then we have our pre-built solutions. Some of you may be familiar with our CX solutions like Bank Assist, Health Assist, Retail Assist. We're now actually building domain-specific LLMs for each of those solutions. And we have a new product called EVA, which people are going to talk about in the conference today, which is the single employee assistant that you would deploy to your employees rather than deploying multiple assistants. And then we're starting to build out some pre-built Gen AI solutions as well. So on the main stage, in I don't know, in an hour or two, Prasanna is going to go into more detail on all this and what the roadmap looks like for that product stack that I just went through. That's just product. Who cares about product? People care about use cases. So what are the use cases? The beauty of Gen AI and conversational AI is it is omnipresent. The use cases are everywhere within an enterprise. They're customer-facing, employee-facing, facing any individual for any function, for any type of workload that one needs to do. Obviously, customer experience is the biggest one. Highest volume, highest impact. It impacts your brand. So you take care of your brand and your customers through customer experience, and we've done that for a long time. Employee experiences are the one that about quarter to a third of our customers are deploying employee-facing conversational assistants. We're increasingly seeing a large amount of interest in the agent experience, the call center agent experience. And now within our contact center platform, we've included outbound campaign management using LLMs, which is again a new thing. And we've redefined the outbound sales acquisition experience using LLMs, which you guys should have a look at. And we're starting to see the initial indications of people wanting to add a co-pilot to an existing custom application that they may have built internally, where a co-pilot is conversational in nature and works off of the data which that application works off of, and not just for lookups, but also full CRUD operations, which you could do conversationally. So we believe that the app experience is a big one. Clearly, the search experience, both customer-facing and employee-facing, is huge. And then now we're starting to see a categorization of use cases which are purely Gen AI and not conversational AI, where you can do research at scale, where you can look at, tons of data and be able to, identify or segment your customers, or identify, campaigns for your marketing team, or identify issues in the contracts that you may have in your company, for example. Documents at scale is the ability to ingest a lot of documents and be able to get analytics, being able to get insights from those documents. You often hear about content generation, especially in marketing and sales, to be able to generate marketing-type content. And then workflow automation is a huge use case as well using Gen AI, basically. So these use cases are continuing to grow. We're hearing about a new use case almost every day, essentially, from our customers. Very interesting ones. But that product stack I showed you can solve for most of these use cases in a pretty efficient way, in a safe and responsible fashion. So how did we do these last 12 months? We did really well as a company. We grew 117% in terms of our revenue, which is great in a very challenging year for mid-stage startups. We added 75 new partners, and we're adding partners furiously in all types of partners, from consulting partners to SI partners to BPO partners, ISV partners, and so on and so forth. We handled about 6 billion interactions over the last 12 months across our customer base, which is massive. Some of the largest deployments of conversational AI are on our platform. And our retention rate with customers was very high as well, which is one of the best numbers in the industry in general. And we grew our customer base by 81% globally, essentially. Again, in a very challenging environment where budgets were constrained. All that resulted in we raising our Series D, round of funding of $150 million, led by FTV Capital and NVIDIA. So we're very excited about that. Having money in the bank when there is a changing landscape to enable you to invest is a huge thing for us and for our customers, basically. And we're announcing XO11 today. Prasanna will get into more details of this, along with there's a breakout session today at 3:15. I encourage you to go and look at this one. There's been a ton of work that's gone into it, tons of new features. We've added all those LLM models that I mentioned, the XOGPT models, into the XO11 platform. It's a very interesting session. Like I mentioned, we're introducing Gale, basically to solve for those problems on the left. And there's a plethora of tools that come within Gale, a prompt playground, and the evaluation studio, the no-code app builder, basically one-click deployment of the model and the app as an API. You can also bring your own model as a foundational model and fine-tune that further, basically, and some of the problems that we're trying to solve with Gale. That one is also today at 3:15. By the way, all these sessions are recorded, so if you're not able to attend one, we'll always send you the recording for you to view at a later date. And if you have colleagues, back in your home offices who want to attend any of these, there's a link to a streaming video that you can access to be able to have them watch some of this. Search AI, there's a new version of Search AI around the extractions and extraction strategies and the chunking strategies. A new workbench that enables you to clean your data before you extract. The indexing process has changed. The responses and the generation of the answers, while we're using foundational models today, we're about to release a new open source model so that you'll have zero cost of using Search AI as time goes on. And that's at 155. I recommend you look at it. We have some very large customers using Search AI with, in some cases, tens of thousands of documents, and in actually one case, over 100,000 documents, being ingested and question answering out of that. And This quarter, we're releasing a new product called EVA, which is essentially ChatGPT for an enterprise, or ChatGPT for an employee of the enterprise. Fundamentally, it is a bot which allows you to ask questions and get answers from your knowledge repositories that are ingested into EVA or made available to EVA. But EVA is also works on your email and your document drives, whether cloud or wherever they are, basically, and be able to get you summarized information. It also allows you to take actions like replying to emails that come in or tasks that have been assigned to you. And it's extensible. You can add additional search agents. You can add a custom agent in the form of a data agent where you can define APIs and ask questions of those APIs and get answers. You can add a conversational bot built on the Exo platform. And you can also add GPT agents that you build on Gale or somewhere else, basically. So it's completely extensible, and it's the only thing an employee would need going forward. Again, it's much more comprehensive than what you've seen in Microsoft Copilot or anything else out there, and it's very personalized to your enterprise and to your employee within that enterprise, essentially. Again, we're going to show that at 1 p.m. today. Oh, I'm sorry, 1 p.m. tomorrow. And then we're also releasing some research studies that we have done, both in CX and agent experience. Some of those metrics are right there in terms of what the conclusion of these surveys that were done by a professional third party. That breakout is at 3:15 tomorrow, where we're going to go through that detail. And like I said, we're adding tons of customers. We have some of the largest financial services customers, healthcare customers, telco, high-tech, consumer goods and services, and pretty much in every continent. I don't think we have somebody in Antarctica, basically, just yet. But we've gone global, and we have some customers all the way from Japan and Korea, here from Australia, from all over Asia, Europe, and of course, the Americas overall. So where do we go from here? We're focused on one thing, solving for your use cases by using AI. And we wake up every morning and go to sleep every night thinking about how do we do that by providing you platforms and tools and solutions to enable you to achieve that objective. We're focused on serving enterprises, large enterprises. Today, we are laser focused on 6 industry groups, like the kind of groups I showed earlier. We're doing about 6 billion interactions, 400 plus enterprise customers. We've estimated we've saved over $1 billion in cost for them. And we've estimated about 250 million customers who have access to those applications. But 5 or 6 years from now, we want to cover pretty much every use case that may exist for Gen AI and conversational AI, serve both the large enterprise, but the mid-market and the small business market, because Gen AI should be available to everybody, and it should be easy enough for people to use it. And it is useful in every industry. So areas like government, education, industries that we've historically not focused on is going to become a new focus for us. We're aiming to get to executing 100 billion interactions by that time, add 50,000 customers, or get to 50,000 customers. And we believe if we do all those things, we'll have a large consumer base and save a ton of money for enterprises. So that's the North Star that we're trying to drive towards, but it all starts with what can we create to help you take advantage of AI. Thank you.
Creatures of my dreams raise up and dance with me.
Wow. How good was that? Is my mic back? There it is. How good was that? Raj, that was very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I had a couple of quick questions.
Yep.
You mentioned there at the beginning that kind of the previous years has been predominantly, I suppose, behind the scenes machine learning for things like analytics and stuff like that, and then customer facing, conversational AI for customer support, those kind of use cases. Hearing about Gale, hearing about those kind of use cases that you're talking about there and the expansion into other industries and all that kind of stuff, it seems as though obviously most businesses could use the conversational AI component, the customer service component. It seems now though that with your likes of Gale, with generative AI and the app builder, you kind of open up a whole new realm of possibilities across every single business department, every business process basically, and more. So I'm just curious in terms of your thoughts on where do you think the demand will come from your customers? Do you think that it will be a continued growth in terms of people exploring the conversational AI for customer service and that's kind of the growth area? Or do you think actually that these generative AI applications are the kind of the new growth area, so to speak?
Well, like I said, I think the use cases are all over the place in every function, in every company. Where will the demand come from? Very simple. Where there is a pain point, basically. So if something is taking too long, something is costing too much, something can be done more optimally, or something can be invented. I mean, I'm being very generic when I say all of this, but that's the truth. You identify the pain point, use conversational AI or Gen AI or a combination to build a solution using the XO platform, the Gale platform, Search AI, and whichever model that makes sense, and then be able to optimize that function. So customer service has obviously been the area that most people have been focused on. Employee service has been the other one. Increasingly, people are interested in search. Search is completely changing. Of course, Google search, Bing search are also moving to conversational, basically to become more like a conversational search engine. And enterprise search, internal enterprise search, consumer-facing search is changing. People don't want to have that search bar anymore, essentially, on their websites. They want, some kind of a ChatGPT type of interface where a human-like response can be given to people's questions. But beyond that, I think there are use cases that people are thinking about, maybe doing POCs, trying some things around research, content generation. For example, we were given a challenge by a large electronic manufacturer who had product manuals in one language, wanted it translated in another language, and then from that be able to generate an actual website which took content from different sources and laid out a description of the product, showed a video of the product, showed the reviews of the product, showed other products that could be bought along with this product. That entire process, the pain point for them was very manual, both in terms of creating the content and putting it together and creating that website. And just like that, the model could take that input from different sources and put it cleanly together. So it cut down the time for them to do it and the workforce to do it by a huge amount. And that's not an activity that they do once a year or once in the product lifetime. They do it like pretty much every week because there are so many promotions and things like that happen throughout the year, depending on the calendar, basically. So this thing is going to be used essentially every day. So those are new use cases that
Yeah, and I remember I gave a talk a little while ago, and I did a bit of research, and I found lots of articles from 2009 that said 2009 is the year of mobile. And then there was articles from 2010 that said 2010 actually is going to be the year of mobile. And then 2011, 2012, all the way up to 2015, there's publishers publishing, it's going to be the year of mobile. We're kind of in a similar sort of space with AI. Is 2024 going to be the year of AI?
Well, I don't know. I started a company called Kore in 2007, and I said mobile is going to be used by the enterprise, and I think it did pretty well all the way till 2014, essentially. So any technology matures over time. OpenAI may be thinking about the North Star being artificial general intelligence and this supercomputer that is going to do better than a human. I don't know how they'll achieve it. If they do, that's great. But more importantly, how can enterprises use the state of the art that exists today? And have tools, platforms, capabilities that can be flexible to use what's there today and keep changing to use the different models and other tools that are coming out pretty much every week now, essentially. And that's the challenge for the enterprise to achieve their use cases. So yes, maybe 2024 is when the best model is out there that the world has ever seen, but by the time, and a lot of the tools make it much easier, and all those hallucinations I showed, the gender bias and issues that we see today, maybe less then. But you don't have to wait till then. I mean, we're here now. Let's do it now.
Yeah. 2009 was the year of mobile for those that were doing something about it, wasn't it? And that's exactly the same as
Same,
where we are now. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Raj. Ladies and gentlemen, please, another round of applause for Raj Koneru.
Thank you.